The Mitsubishi Lancer failed to capture the hearts of enthusiasts. Built in around 2007, going all the way till 2016, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 10 replaced the Evo 9. And it came from a very high, thoroughbred rally reputation. And there were a couple of issues why enthusiasts didn't really take to the Evo 10 the way they did with the previous evolutions. And I want to get into all of that. The number one thing that really happened, guys, is Mitsubishi and the Evos were rally cars. And if you know anything about rally culture, it's a whole different thing. I'm in the Toyota GR Yaris, for example. And as special as this car is, I would say that it wouldn't be much if it wasn't for the homologation special tag. And the issue that occurred with the Evo 10 is that Mitsubishi pulled out of the World Rally Championship, WRC, in around 05. Given that the Evo 10 came out in around 07, it means that the car wasn't really considered a rally car the way some of the other Evos were, and that was one of the biggest issues. The second issue with the Evo 10 was the weight. It was some 130 to 160 kilos up on the previous Evo 9. And that really put out the power to weight ratio. The power to weight ratio is one of the weakest power to weight ratio that existed across any Lancer Evolution generation. Now, it's funny because upon release, that was a huge difference, 130 kilos. And this is back in 07, 08, guys, right? So today, if you look at the M5s of the world and the AMGs of the world, 130 kilos, enthusiasts, they would be jumping for joy, guys. If a car came out today, and especially with the Germans, or a sports car, and it just had 130, 160 kilos worth of weight difference, guys, people would be jumping for joy, praising brands. But back then, it was different. That was a pretty high weight gain for a car. And enthusiasts didn't quite like it. And the other thing they didn't really like is the body. The body really reflected the weight gain in a way that current cars, the bodies don't really reflect the weight gain. They hide it. But with the Evo 10, if you look at the body, it's quite tall, it's quite elongated, it looks a bit wide, it looks a bit puffy. It doesn't look agile. And that really put enthusiasts off. Now, the last thing I want to cover is the fact that there was an engine change. Now, the previous Evos ran with the legendary 4G63 motor. 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbo. The engine in the Evo 10 was also a 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbo, but it was a brand new engine. And it actually has its roots in the 4B1 series, which was a joint partnership between different brands. The 4B1 family of engines was shared between Chrysler, Mitsubishi, and Hyundai. And despite the sharing of that platform, the 4B11T was a very powerful and very stout engine. And one of the biggest issues that enthusiasts had was the aluminum construction. The 4G63 was an iron block. The 4B11T in the Evo 10 was all aluminum with aluminum heads. You had the 9:1 compression ratio, which is a very low unstressed compression ratio, and you had continuous variable valve timing, CVVT, Mitsubishi's MyVec, on both intake and exhaust cams. Redline was high, power and torque was high, 276 horsepower is the lowest number you'll see, and it goes all the way up to 440 horsepower in the FQ440 version. That is a very high horsepower number, and the FQ440 version, which was sold in the UK, that still had the full factory warranty. Now, Mitsubishi obviously wanted you to follow really rigorous servicing intervals, makes sense, but the fact that Mitsubishi was willing to sell this car with 440 horsepower says a lot. Compared to the 4G63 engine, the 4B11T made more torque everywhere. At any engine speed, it made more torque. But enthusiasts just couldn't get on board. Is it the fault of the Evo, or is it the fault of the enthusiasts? And guys, I want to say a couple of things, because whenever the WRX, the new Rexys, or the new STIs came out, all the enthusiasts got up and said the old ones were better. And there's a lot of this in rally culture, and there's a lot of this in Subaru culture, but I think there's a lot of this in enthusiast car culture. We look at older cars with golden and rose-tinted glasses, and a lot of that happened with the Evo. And I want to talk about the fact that this was a heavier car, right? Lesser power to weight ratio, heavier car. But in reality, guys, it's not that much heavier. And in reality, this had the active yaw control. It had proper torque vectoring. It was a handling monster, guys. It was agile like no other car. It was absolutely a better handling car in the twisties. The 4G63, it enjoyed a lot of enthusiast love, and it had a lot of enthusiast attention because it was a very old motor, right? Yes, there's an iron block, but it was a very old motor being used in Evos since forever. And then you had the 4B11T, which was a new kid on the block, and because of that, everyone dismissed it because tuners everyone, they had the aftermarket support, they had the aftermarket supply. They couldn't quite embrace the 4B11T. And today, if you look at 4B11Ts, they have an excellent reputation, right? Because these cars can take 500 horsepower on stock blocks, stock internals, right? They already took 440 horsepower from Mitsubishi, right? So they can take 500 horsepower, and tuners have really now pushed these engines to the limit, where everyone started to realize, actually, this is right up there with the 4G63. There's not many inherent weaknesses with the engine, and a lot of the items from the 4G63 were improved in the 4B11T. So I think it was a really unfair part of history where enthusiasts wrote off the 4B11T just because it wasn't the older motor. I think the Evo 10 is one of the great enthusiast cars. I think history is going to be much kinder to this car because, make no mistake, guys, the Subaru WRX STI, those cars were not as reliable. They're not as capable, guys. They're not able to put out the high performance while retaining reliability. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.